We are Odyssey's 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast. I'm Al with Brian and Zain, and with us today, it's a collab pod. We love to do these. We have the host of the 49ers Rush podcast. He is, I guess we'll call him the CEO of the 49ers Rush road trip, which I can't wait to hear about. He is one of those fans, I think if you ask fans who pay attention, like who's a top 5 Niners fan, and not just somebody who's, got the jersey on, but he's doing stuff for other fans. He's putting tailgates together. I think this guy's name would come up with a lot of them. He is the always positive John Chapman. John, thanks for being here, buddy.
Man, I'm honored to be with you guys. Like, I'm a big fan of all of you. I mean, we were messaging Letterkenny gifts, Brian, like before this show. I'm feeling it, man. Let's not pitter patter. Let's get at her. Glad to be here with you guys.
John, I got to ask you before we start into the Niner stuff. I want to hear a little bit about you and what you're doing with the road trip and the tailgate. Because I think that's one of the coolest things, man. And it seems like you're setting this stuff up and really coordinating it all. So tell us and tell our listeners sort of what it's all about and where they can find it.
Well, it all kind of came together like through a weird, like it was the Super Bowl trip to Miami. And it was just like, man, there's no way in hell I can put together this trip. I don't have the money. I was a, high school teacher, whatever else. And, I just went on the show and I was like, here's what I want to do. I want to find a way to get Frank Gore to come hang out with us. I want to rent a place on South Beach and I want us to hang out with Frank Gore. And I just put this out to the, like, whatever, ethos or whatever. And I had like 50 emails of, I can't make the trip. Here's $50. And other people were like, dude, I'll make the trip. I'll pay whatever it takes. And it was just really, really cool. And I was like, holy cow, I didn't know this existed. Well, we had like 400 people show up. Frank Gore, took shots with Frank Gore, hung out with him for like 2.5 hours. It was incredible. Awesome. And then COVID happened, like literally right after that. And I was like, oh, this is what I was going to see if I could continue doing this. COVID finally passes, whatever. And it's all about getting connected fans together because I always travel to the games by myself. My wife works weekends and, our budget was always limited. So I would show up to these cities not knowing anybody before I started the podcast. And I would just show up and go to bars and hang out. Like, that's my personality. I'm a little bit of a douchebag, but creating like that space for fans in Philly, which is not a friendly city, different places like that. And so we rent out bars and venues and music halls, and we just fill it up with Niners fans. And so it's continued to grow. We do tailgates. We usually do at least 2 parties at every venue. So, for example, Seattle game, we're getting together Wednesday night. Everybody's going to welcome the team planes whenever they land at the airport. Awesome. Then we're going to party, which is going to be just absolutely at Kel's Irish Pub with the Seattle Faithful chapter. And that's another thing, working with these local chapters, which is a lot of fun and a lot of great people. Then we're renting out a spot right across the street for the tailgate the day of. So we'll be there with drinks, food, giveaways. We do a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes we get players out, but they're pretty pricey. But we try to. But yeah, so it keeps growing and the people seem to like it. So I think we're going to keep doing it. At least that's the plan.
It's awesome, man. I think it's so cool. I want to start the show, guys, with moving forward with Brock Purdy, which is where we are. And one of the things I've kind of been thinking about, Niner fans have been through it with this. This is 3 out of 5 years now with Jimmy where this has happened. And the other years haven't ended well. You had 2018, they were 4-12. 2020, they were 6-10. And a lot of that had to do with quarterback play. There were other injuries as well, but I'll give an example in a few about some things Nick Mullens did in 2020 that really cost him a playoff spot. I don't think that this is that. I think now we'll find out. We'll find out in the next 3 weeks, but I don't think Brock Purdy is another Nick Mullens or CJ Beathard. I think he's going to be able to kind of keep the ship afloat while everything around him makes it go. I don't think he's going to make the big mistake. I don't think he's going to make the crippling mistake. Where are you guys on this, John? I would start with you, I guess. What do you think with Brock and him moving forward?
Well, it's so damn exciting, right? Like, this is just weird as heck. How is it that Tom Brady is getting like his first game ever in Santa Clara where he's actually playing and not injured? I think it's his second game. I apologize. But like, there's a quarterback starting that was drafted even later than him. Right. And like it's the narrative it's beautiful and we're very, very lucky to enjoy this. And it's getting to the point now where I'm like, how in the hell is this kid going to live up to the hype that just continues to be built through 5 days? It's been 5 days. I feel like I've talked about Brock Purdy for a month. And so I'm excited. I think that there are a lot of reasons why the excitement level is so high. His personality, his moxie, right? He was drafted late for a reason. He's small, doesn't have a strong arm. You know, he's got a quick burst to his, mobility, which is nice, but no top end speed whatsoever. He looks like a damn Lego character. Like, I mean, he's young, but there's something about this guy, and you can't really point at it or label it or quantify it. But man, he just shows up, and with the team around him, it's easy to like become a believer. And I'm hoping he delivers this week for us.
Listen, I'm the captain of the Brock Purdy hype train. I don't know if you guys can see it very much like around the horn. I created this yesterday. This is my Brock Purdy. If he beats Tom Brady on Sunday, I'm going to start selling these shirts. Look out.
You got to explain now. What you got to explain?
Is that a chicken? Is that a chicken? I don't understand.
John, that's a rooster.
Oh,
right. Because what, and here's the thing. It's hard for me. It's hard to know where trends start, right? All I know is that at 3:18 on Sunday, in section 111, row whatever, I was telling John about this before we came on. I sat in the best seats I've ever sat at in Levi's. They were padded folded chairs like you would see at like the front row at like wrestling events. Behind section 111. So it was like amazing view, right? So I'm sitting there in my seat. It's like 3:18, and I'm like, look, Brock Purdy's playing well. We had Big Dick Nick. Now we got Big Cock Brock. And there we go. Right? And there's a number 13 right here that will show up on the shirt again that I might sell if he beats Tom Brady on Sunday. Here's the thing. I was there. I was at the game, John. I know you were at the game as well. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down in the first series, after the first series, and all of a sudden Brock Purdy comes on the field. And I mean, we're playing the Dolphins. They just scored a 75-yard touchdown on the first play from scrimmage. The 49ers have a sustained drive that they end up kicking a field goal on, right? And then the next series, Brock Purdy comes out and you're like, well, okay. I mean, I'm going to stay for the whole game, but I might as well just leave, right? Because we're going against the best offense in the NFL. Our defense is lights out, but Brock Purdy, 7th round pick, Iowa State, 6'1", But here's the thing, Brock Purdy, the moment wasn't too big for him. And it was obvious that it wasn't too big for him. And I think ultimately, you hit it, John. He's 6'1". He's got an average arm at best. He's got decent quickness, right? His Brian Peacock of Locked On 49ers posted his spider graph from the combine. The only elite physical attribute that he had was that 10-yard split on the 40-yard dash.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. You look at that spider graph, and it's just like one little blip.
Yeah, I again, as part of my curation of the Brock Purdy hype train, I also edited that spider graph to put that dog on there, which is at 110. So that's really where Brock Purdy is. But I think this team doesn't need him to be a superstar. We're not looking for him to be the future of the franchise. All we need is for him to be steady. All we need is for him to take care of the ball, get the ball into the hands of his playmakers, and this defense is going to do the rest. And so while I am excited about Brock Purdy, I'm the captain of the Brock Purdy hype train. I'm not on that hype train saying he's going to light the world on fire. What I'm saying is he's going to step in and still be able to lead this team to the promised land, which is the postseason. And from there, it's anybody's ball game. And because here's the thing, as 49er fans, we know this team can win in the playoffs quite literally without a quarterback, because that's what they've done in 2019. That's what they did in 2021. So as long as he takes care of that ball, I think I still have high expectations for this team, and Big Cock Brock's going to lead them there.
If they beat New England, if they beat Tampa Bay, New England.
Whoa.
Here I am, like 3 years ago.
Tampa Bay.
If they beat Tampa Bay, I will buy one of those shirts. So you got me all frazzled now talking about Brock Purdy. I don't even know who we're playing this week, right? I will buy one of those shirts, Brian. You have my word.
Yes.
As the newest member of the Brock Purdy hype train, member number 69, I will buy one of those shirts from you. And I'll tell you why this is not like Nick Mullens and CJ Beathard and what we've seen in the past. I will buy that thought, Al, and I will run with it. And here's what I think. It's not like that because the defense is far more advanced than what it was in 2018 and far more healthy than what it was in 2020. So the defense can carry them. You're not going to rely as much on the quarterback position to make plays. And to your thought, Brian, they don't have to have him light the world on fire. All you got to do is not mess up. Just don't mess up. You're babysitting this thing. They're giving up, what was it, like 16 points a game right now? I believe 16 and a half points a game. I believe. I can't remember if that's correct or not, but they are absolutely off the charts. This is the best 49ers defense I have ever seen. This goes back to the 90s as well, right? And that 95 defense was the other defense I was comparing them to, that Pete Carroll defense. This, I feel like, is better than that, given the way the game has changed and the nature of the game and what they're doing to passing offenses. So that being said, you need 2 wins to get into the tournament. I've been saying this all along. You got to get to 10. They're at 8 right now. If you split the next 2, which is very possible, that means that you have to win 1 out of your next 4 games, 1 out of your last 4 games to get in the tournament. And once you're there, they have a defense, they have a running game. Elijah Mitchell is going to get healthy. Eric Armstead came back this week. They're going to be getting guys back from IR. Who knows what happens at the quarterback position? We don't know if Jimmy's coming back, or we don't know what's going on with that, depending on how far they go in the playoffs. But Brock Purdy is the new Tom Brady. Okay. It's the new Brady versus the old Brady.
That clip is gonna go viral.
After he throws 4 picks this weekend, we'll play that back.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hey,
you know, positivity here.
I think the biggest thing, like you mentioned 2018 and 2020, they did not have the players around him like they do now. You know, in 2020, Debo was hurt. Then at Bosa, and I think Nick Bosa, look, I think he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink, man. I think he's unbelievable, and I think he's the most valuable player on the team. I think he's that good. But I do want to say, because leading into the next thing I want to talk about, I want to go into the playoffs. But the point that I want to make is about him not screwing things up. I went back and looked, because in 2020, I really feel, despite not having Bosa, despite not having your starting quarterback, injuries everywhere, Debo and Kittle barely played, they still could have made the playoffs if Mullens just didn't blow the game up. And I went back and looked. So when they were playing against Philly early in the season, they're down 8-7. They're on the Philadelphia 14-yard line. Mullens throws an interception. They're down. No, they must have been up 14-11. They're on their own 45, a sack fumble. They're down 18-14 on their own 25, a pick 6. That's the quarterback kind of blowing the game up for you. Against Washington, they were down 16-7, and they were driving late in the third quarter. On the Washington 24, Mullens throws a pick 6. So all the momentum goes away. Against Dallas, it was 24-all going into the fourth quarter. Interception on their own 16. 27-24 Dallas. Interception at midfield. So if those games go with a quarterback again that just isn't screwing it up for you, Niners made the playoffs with injuries everywhere. That's crazy. And that's a great coaching job by Saleh and Shanahan too, but it didn't happen because Mullens was so bad. They need Purdy not to do that. And I want to talk about playoff scenarios as well. But before I do that, you mentioned the Jimmy thing, Zain, and it's really interesting. And I just want to get everybody's thoughts on it, because it depends on what's going on, right? If they're winning and Purdy's like throwing 10 times a game because you're terrified of what he's going to do, and Jimmy's able to come back, yeah, I get it. But if Purdy's playing really well and they're in the NFC Championship game, which I'll talk about why I think they can do that, I don't think you pull the plug whether Jimmy's ready or not. So I'm curious. I don't think there's no way if Purdy's gotten you that far, that I think, unless it has nothing to do with him whatsoever. I don't think you can do that. Where are you guys on it?
I'm pretty big on losing your job because of an injury. I don't know where that came from. And like, I get like, oh, it doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, but it's a meritocracy. If somebody comes in and balls out, we're playing against Tom Brady this week. He is the epitome of taking somebody's job because they got injured, right? So if Purdy goes out there and just plays what he did last week, I'm not even asking for improvement, right? If he just stays that level, then you roll with him. I'm the biggest Trey Lance guy in the world. Like, I'm the biggest Trey Lance fan that's ever existed, probably besides his parents.
John, I feel like your claim to fame is that you called that pick in December of 2020.
That was sponsored by tequila. I was wasted that night watching college film and tweeted that out. I don't even remember tweeting that out. Somebody else had to tell me I tweeted it out.
Yeah, I also thought they were going to pick him.
See, and so like, but like, even though I love Trey Lance, when Jimmy started playing as well as he did this year, then I had the same take. Like, look, I don't care if Trey comes back and he is healthy. You stay with Jimmy. Like, you stay with what is consistently working, regardless of who that is, draft status, whatever else. Don't give a damn. If Brock Purdy can get 3 out of 2 wins, go 3-2 down this stretch. Zain talked about 2's the magic number, and I think it is, as long as Seattle's one of those wins. But if you can get 3 wins out of that, then I think you keep rolling unless he gives you a reason not to. But yeah, Jimmy, if he comes back, great. Trey, if he comes back, great. Probably less of a chance. But like, you stay with the hot hand. You just keep rolling with it. If it's hot, if it's not, we'll see. But it's Brock, man. It's Brock.
So John, let's say that like the not unthinkable, but we're in the I have a dream section of life right now, and they get all the way to the end, and we're playing in February, and he seals the deal. Okay, this is completely hypothetical, obviously, right? What happens with Trey next year if Brock Purdy just took you on this run here?
Yeah, I think you let him go out there and compete. I really, really do. I mean, if he wins the Super Bowl and whatever else, like, I don't really care. And I know that like that's going to be a discussion, but the fact that you already have these 2 rookie contracts at the quarterback position moving forward is a beautiful, wonderful problem to have. And even if Jimmy took us to the, Graceland, that's awesome. Trey, there's no reason to move from Trey. He's got a cheap contract. You can't move off a rookie deal very well anyway. Like, the more the merrier. And if we have learned anything the past Shanahan experience, quarterbacks don't stay healthy. So I will take 2 to 3 and be a happy, happy man. We got 4 stud quarterbacks on this podcast right now. Al's probably going to go down with a broken ankle at some point. So
I'm getting old.
He was playing hurt last week. Al, I thought it was interesting. You brought it up. Is Brock Purdy Nick Mullens 2.0? And a couple of things that make me feel like he's not. One, we're talking about a guy that again turned down a scholarship offer from Alabama to go to Iowa State, right? Started as a true freshman, played 4 years, right? He came in game 5 his true freshman year and never relinquished the job. And I think he played 47 games at Iowa State, a Power 5 school, right? Nick Mullens coming from FCS, right? Southern Miss, right? I think it was Southern Miss.
Yeah.
Regardless, not a Power 5 school. Here's the other thing that I thought was interesting. And I think you talked about it. Mullens, turnover prone, especially in 2020. Here's the thing that Brock has that Mullens didn't. Who was it? Computer Cowboy Ben Baldwin tweeted this out. It was part of a Kevin Cole piece from PFF, and it was quarterback efficiency specifically for San Francisco, with and without Debo and Kittle on the field, right? And they showed Jimmy, Mullens, and Beathard. Jimmy had 2,140 dropbacks as a 49er, and of those 2,140, over 1,000 had both Debo and Kittle on the field at the same time. Nick Mullens had 704 dropbacks. Of those 704 dropbacks, eight of those dropbacks had Debo and Kittle on the field at the same time.
Wow.
And you think about 2020, if Debo and Kittle aren't on the field, who's catching passes? It was Richie James. It was River Craycraft. It was a hodgepodge of nobodies, right? And so Brock Purdy has Debo. Brock Purdy has Kittle. Brock Purdy has Brandon Ayuk. Brock Purdy has Christian McCaffrey, right? Brock Purdy has I use this term a lot, an embarrassment of riches at the at the skill position. And so all he has to do is get the ball in their hands, right? He doesn't have to be a hero. He doesn't have to play hero ball. He doesn't have to create. He just has to get the ball to his playmakers. And the one thing that I wanted, again, as captain of the Brock Purdy hype train, I was listening to 49ers talk with Matt Miyoko and Jennifer Lee Chan. And Jennifer had this tidbit, which I thought spoke volumes to who Purdy is and why he was able to be successful this past Sunday. And she said, this season, after practice is over, while the rest of the team goes back into the locker room, Purdy stays out on the field with a single cameraman, and he goes through the entire QB1 game script by himself on the field, and then goes by himself and reviews his own tape of how he ran that script. And so to me, the preparation is off the charts. You heard him at the podium, maturity beyond his years. The dude's 22 years old. He's going to be 23 later this month, but he's still only 22 years old. Again, you've got Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, who are roughly the same age, right? And so that's the thing that I love about Trey as well, is up here. And I think that's what's going to make him successful. And the same thing with Brock. Brock isn't going to win with his arm. He's going to win with his brain. And as long as he stays within himself, I don't think that we're going to see a Nick Mullens 2.0.
And I think a lot of it is going to have to do with matchups too as they move forward. So I'm thinking about these playoff scenarios, right? And I'm thinking about if the Niners got to muck it up a little bit and win ugly, can they do that? And they can. The first thing, John, you mentioned the Niners got to beat Seattle, and I agree with you. Because if you look at Seattle's remaining schedule, they play the Panthers this week. Seattle's come back down to earth, I feel like, but I still think they're going to beat the Panthers. You have the Niners game. You have the Chiefs game. They're going to lose that game. They're playing the Jets, but they're playing the Jets at home.
Yeah.
That's kind of a toss-up. We'll see maybe. Then they have
Mike
the Rams.
White, baby.
Mike White, baby.
And the Jets will be playing for their playoff lives as well.
Yeah, with Garrett Wilson. They got some players, man. And then they finish up with the Rams, who are going to be packed up at that point, probably. So there's definitely 2 wins there, I feel like.
Baker Mayfield and the Rams.
So probably at that point. So that Niners game is huge, because if they do beat the Niners, they're probably getting the 10 wins. And
it's probably done.
Yeah,
the division's probably done
if you
win that game.
But you know what, though, John? So I'm looking at the playoffs, okay? Philly's getting the 1 seed, right? Minnesota looks like they're getting the 2. Let's say the Niners don't go. Well, let's look at the Niners at 3 and 6. Say the Niners win the division at 3, and then somebody's going to win the South. It'll probably be Tampa, right? You would think so. And then Dallas is definitely the 5 seed. I don't think there's any way around that. And then you're going to see for two teams for the last 3 look like Seattle, Giants, and Washington. Even if the Niners don't win the division, the Niners go to 6.
Yeah, so 3 or 6 seem like almost locks. It's like 3 or 6.
Or 6, exactly. And either way, so let's say they're 3, okay? They're either going to be playing Seattle, the Giants, or Washington at home. Those are all incredibly easy. Not I don't say easy, but winnable.
The Commanders is the one that makes me like scratch my head, just because of that defensive matchup. I could see some issues, but as far as matchups go, oh my gosh, give me the Giants and Seahawks all day.
All day. And even if they go to 6, they're playing the Seahawks. They got to go to Seattle, but they're playing the Seahawks, which I don't think are massively more talented than the Niners. And I think they could muck that game up if they have to. So let's say I'm going to be
Iowa State weather is a mess, by the way, if you've ever been up there. So Brock's played a lot of games in some messy situations. So that's comforting.
So let's say Arizona kid.
Even though he's an Arizona kid. Yeah.
I think they're gonna get the 3 seed. So let's be positive. They get the 3 seed. We think they could win that first round, right? And then I don't see Dallas losing either.
Well, you'd be playing the 2 seed no matter what. Because
no matter what, right?
Because it reseeds.
Oh, right.
Likely not.
We get a Giants, then a Vikings matchup.
And again, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'll take that. Again, that's another game. If the Niners aren't breaking 20 points, I'll still take that game, because I think they're going to just, we've seen what Kirk Cousins can get rattled. So the only game I'm looking at where I don't think they could muck it up with is the Eagles. And that's the NFC Championship. And who knows?
But in that scenario that we just talked about,
be playing
I could easily see Dallas going into Philly and beating Philly. And if that's the case, Then you get Dallas, but you get them at Levi's and not in Dallas.
Right. And those are the two most questionable matchups for the 49ers, Philly and Dallas. Even though I would love to play Dallas, that's like my arch nemesis. Probably the high point last year was that Cowboys game, man. That playoff Cowboy game was, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. That was incredible. But yeah, you're right, man. And Al, I think you painted the picture. It is set up just on T. You know what I mean? Like Brock, just go do your thing, Brock. Chill out. He didn't complete one pass over 20 yards. It's not like you got to put the ball in jeopardy. Just keep checking it down. Easy. Get it to your studs. Manage the game. I don't think he was a game manager though, but like, just chill. Just chill. Don't Mullens it.
Yeah, I think that like he threw it 37 times. And how many times have we seen a situation like this where a third string quarterback who's had no first team reps, obviously, who's just coming off the bench, been inactive for a good portion of the year, they come in and they totally just wet the bed. And they can't, the offense, you just can't even run the offense at all. Yeah. And the fact that they were able to run that offense almost like it was normal was just like, that was the most shocking fact to me in a good way. And that all the credit goes to Kyle and Purdy, of course. Kyle, the playmakers, for getting the ball in their hands and doing something with it. But man, like that was to me one of the biggest things, that they didn't really seem to miss a beat at all. And that's I think what encourages 49er fans going forward is that, like, if he had totally just, stunk it up and they scored 3 points the rest of the game, it's like, okay, well, yeah, what do you expect? He's a 7th round rookie, right? He's Mr. Irrelevant. What do you expect out of that? But he came in there and he looked competent. He looked confident, and they looked like they can actually, win games with him at quarterback. And I think that's why everybody's so excited.
I will say this real quick. It's sorry to jump in, but like the Dolphins forced Kyle's hand. Those 6-man fronts, it was one. It happened 3 times, I think, totally in the game, where it was 3rd and short, like 3rd and 4 or less. They had all 11 players within a yard and a half of the line of scrimmage. And Kyle tried running into it the first time, lost yards, punted at midfield. Then same thing happened again, and you see BCB giving the call, baby. He switched it up on 3rd down and freaking rolled out. Awesome completion, I think, to Debo or Ayuk on that time. But
one was Debo, one was Ayuk. Yeah,
right. They forced him to throw the ball. Kyle had no choice. There's no way in hell Kyle wanted to throw the ball 37 times with Brock Purdy. But McDaniels, the defensive staff, everybody basically said, we're going to make this kid beat us, and he delivered.
So there's a little bit of concern that I have, though, and we talked about this on our last show, about the running game and the lack of kind of traction, specifically when McCaffrey, I mean, catching the ball, he's been fantastic, right? But running the ball, it seems like he's been kind of slow to get his footing a little bit. And Brian, you mentioned that it's because he's not a between the tackles runner. He's more like because the runners in this offense that are successful, just like the one cut and like hit the hole, like Mostert, Mitchell, like that's how they run, like the downhill runners. McCaffrey kind of picks a hole and is able to find space, as evidenced by the cutback run that basically ended the game, right? Like he was able to find some space in there. Is there something to that, or should we be kind of worried about this going forward?
I'll be very, very honest with you. The biggest issue for any 49er starter, and this is a 2-part answer here, so apologies. The center position has been really good in pass pro. I'm just going to be very, very honest. Like he has been great. Brindle has been great in pass pro. As good as he has been in pass pro, he's been equally terrible in the running game. And we have been spoiled with the center play that we've had, which is crazy to say, but he cannot maintain blocks in the middle of the field at that crease point or that backside like cutback that we did see McCaffrey hit that 30-yarder on. It's bad. And so a big reason why we're having so many 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 6 instead of 3rd and 2s is because that interior offensive line, not really everybody, but mostly Brindle, it's struggling. He gets to where he's supposed to be. He cannot maintain a block for more than a second and a half. And so we have a slow developing, zone, whatever. But you are correct. CMC is a space player. And whenever you're going in against 5 and 6 man, like defensive line front, I'm not talking about like an 8-man box, which there is that as well. Literally 6 defenders in every single gap. It's difficult. That's why Jordan Mason's having the success he is having, because he just run through your soul. That's not who McCaffrey is. He has to have space to create more space. And I think it's going to continue to look that way with CMC early, unfortunately.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Like, again, you hear about people talking, about the 49ers after Garoppolo goes down. Hey, Brock doesn't have to do everything. They just got to lean on the running game, lean on the defense, right? Because that's always been the narrative. That's been the narrative since Kyle's been there. The 49ers are 22nd in rushing DVOA right now, 22nd. They actually have a negative 8.7% DVOA, which means that on average, the defense has a significant advantage when the 49ers are running the ball. Now, the nice thing is weeks 1 through 9, they were 25th in rushing DVOA. And since week 10, they've been 12th. So they've gotten better. And I think part of that, like you said, John, is Jordan Mason. But Jason Aponte put this on Twitter again right before we recorded, and I thought this was interesting. The 49ers are averaging 3.73 yards per run over right guard and 4.12 yards per run over right tackle, which are 24th and 23rd in the league respectfully, and then 5.7 yards when they run to the left. And so they're starting to get a little predictable as well because they're not successfully running to the right. Most of their successful runs come to the left. And so
even that McCaffrey play was designed to the right, cut back to the left.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I think the issue is run blocking. And John said it's Brendel, but it's the whole line. McGlinchey is not run blocking like he used to prior to that injury, which really kind of lowers his value because even though he's shaky in pass protection, he was an elite run blocker for a tackle. Yep. He hasn't been that this season. And then Brendel, Banks, the rotation at right guard. It's just the line isn't run blocking the way that they normally do. And so the fear for me, again, when we talk about Brock Purdy and how far can we go, is if the running game isn't going to get going, they are going to have to throw the ball a lot more. And if that happens, where do we land with Brock? I believe in him. I believe that he can succeed. I believe that we will win, right? But who knows? So to me, that's the biggest issue of this entire offense is that offensive line, but more specifically, their run blocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we look at this game coming up now, I wanted to start with the defense, but we're talking about running, so let me give this stat. I was like, Tampa Bay's got a really good rush defense, and I went kind of and looked at it, and typically they've had some good games, but they've had 4 games where they've gotten gashed. And I'm not saying I'm watching every Tampa Bay snap, so I don't know what it was with that or what happened, but Panthers ran for 173 on them. The Ravens ran for 231. The Chiefs ran for 189 and the Falcons ran for 154. So they've had games where they've gotten run on.
Did the Panthers was that Panthers game, was McCaffrey there?
Or was I don't think so. No, I think that was the Foreman game.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Game with Foreman.
You're right.
So, because I'm worried that with that too, Brian, I'm worried that if they're not in third and manageable, eventually it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. So if you're not third and manageable and you're constantly 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 with a young quarterback, and you are playing a very good defense, Tampa's got problems, but we'll get to it where it is. It's on the other side of the ball. That's where you could worry. And again, you just have one bad pick, one bad turnover, and the game can turn. So that does worry me a little bit. Are they going to be able to maintain? I just think they got to get to 20. But can they avoid mistakes? Because this is going to Seattle will be a huge test for Purdy. Tampa's defense is going to be a huge test for Purdy too.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, the one area that's crazy about Tampa Bay, they don't turn the ball over. They don't cause turnovers. They've only forced 2 turnovers in their past 8 games. Like they're not that ball hawking team. And Antoine Winfield, their safety, who would qualify as like the quote unquote ball hawk, I don't think he's going to play. He missed last week, didn't practice today. I'm not quite sure they're going to continue that. So I want more favorable matchups. I want Kyle to throw on first down a little bit more. And I wish he'd run on 3rd down more. If it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, I would not give a damn if he ran the ball. Like that is fine for this game because the Bucs aren't going to put up a lot of points. Not on this defense. They haven't all year. So like literally first 1 to 17 wins. So like be a little bit more unorthodox, Kyle. Like throw on first, run on 3rd, like get your team in some favorable matchups, allow the talent, which is you have more talented rosters, no doubt about it. Let them kind of take over.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that's been happening with them lately is that they've been losing on 1st and 2nd down, and they have not been able to really get it. It's resulted in a lot of 3rd and longs. And we love those Jimmy stats, like, oh, on 3rd and 8 or more, he's got a super high conversion rate, like 2nd highest conversion rate in league, and yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, what the underlying thing there is that they're not winning on 1st and 2nd down. And you just can't do that with a young quarterback. You can't do that with an inexperienced quarterback. So I'm with you. Like, I hope they can throw on 1st and 2nd down more to be able to get more yardage, because running the ball is just not working. And it's one of those things where the reason why, like, you look at the year that Tom Brady's having, and he's having a pretty good year, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like, he's having statistically a pretty good year. And you wonder, why aren't they winning more? Well, it's because they can't run the ball. They're dead last in the league.
At all.
Yeah, he's having on the surface, Brady's having a good year, but his TD percentage is the lowest of his career. His yards per attempt is the 2nd lowest of his career. And his yards per completion is the lowest of his career. And he's thrown 524 times already this year because they can't run. They can't get the ball downfield. They can't run.
His arms going to fall off.
Yeah, you look and you're like, yeah, Tom's stats look okay, but he has not been able to do what he has in the past with that team, which is get the ball down the field to Mike Evans and make big plays. They haven't been able to do that.
Guys, Jimmy Garoppolo has more passing touchdowns than Tom Brady.
That's crazy,
man.
And that'll remain that way this week, right? Because Brady's not going to throw any touchdowns, right?
I like your style.
But we can't get out of here without giving our flowers to the defense, though, right? Like, I mean, this just unbelievable, the job that they've done. We talked about earlier, one of the best defenses that we've ever seen from this team, and they get Eric Armstead back last week. He was on a pitch count, played 21 snaps, and he was very impactful. So the question I have for you is kind of twofold, like, about Armstead and his impact and how they kind of ease him back in. And are we going to see Javon Kinlaw? Is it worth using an IR spot activation to get Javon Kinlaw in there when you've been really fine without him, and you can use that on another player?
You don't have Ridgeway.
That's the big. I was to say that's the problem. Ridgeway went down.
The pec, right? The pec injury.
He's pretty much done for the season.
Yeah.
The good news is, I think this is a week where you would not have needed Ridgeway as much because they cannot run it up the middle. I think Ty McGill can step into that spot rather well. I think he played his way into that role. And when Armstead came back, then they put him on the inactive list but now I think he just steps up into that role. So I'm not too concerned. And with Kinlaw, not yet. There's no reason to bring him back now. Like, they can't run the ball. It's not a big deal. Let Kinlaw get this extra month. It's the playoff push. That's what it would be for if he does come back. That's a big if. But I don't think there's any need to push that now.
Well, and the issue is they only have 2 activations left, and they've got Elijah Mitchell, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Javon Kinlaw.
Jimmy didn't officially go on, did he? He hasn't gone on yet.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't think they will put him on.
That's true.
I doubt they will too. But yeah, you've got Kinlaw, Elijah, Trey Lance. Those are the 3 that are possible. But I think the situation is going to kind of solve itself. I think it's going to kind of solve itself. Some of the guys won't be able to come back.
This is really, if you look at the numbers, this is a nightmare matchup for the Bucs, because the Bucs can't run the ball. They're last in the NFL at 3.3 yards per carry. And the Niners defense is first in the NFL at 3.3 yards, giving up 3.3 yards per carry. Now, the Bucs have scored 19 points or less 7 times, and they've only scored more than 22 just once. So at some point, I don't care what the names are. It's just, they're just not getting it done. So they're not going to be able to run the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to get big plays downfield. They're going to get pressure on Brady. Wirfs isn't playing. And I saw this stat. I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, which I love. I think he does a great job. He had Benjamin Solak on, comes out with numbers. He's great. I don't know where he gets numbers from. But he said this was heading into last week, so I don't know how the Dolphins game affected it. But since drafting Fred Warner, the 49ers have allowed just 71 completions to the intermediate middle of the field. That's 15 fewer than the next closest team. So they're not going to be able to run. You got Fred and Dre Greenlaw taking away the middle of the field. They haven't been able to get the ball downfield. Brady's only averaging, like we said, 6.4 yards per attempt. What's this offense going to do? I mean, unless Tom Brady, I don't know, he digs into the Tom Brady magic because he's playing his boyhood team and something fluky happens. I think this is just a nightmare matchup for them. And I don't think they're going to get to 20 points. And I think if the Niners can do that, you're in good shape. What's
interesting about this Tampa Bay offense? Their offensive line, I mean, they've just had it's just been decimated by injury, and so that's been part of the conversation the whole season.
Yeah, losing their
But
center.
even they lost their center. Wirfs has gone down multiple times, right? Or maybe just once, but for a long time. But regardless, their offensive line hasn't been great. They still have given up the fewest sacks in the NFL with 18.
Well, and that's what Tom
Which is
Brady
bonkers
does.
to me.
Like, and big reason why the yards per attempt so low, he throws the ball away more than any other quarterback. Like, if there's pressure in his face, he will throw the ball away. If it's first, second down, he does not give a damn. He throws the ball away more than any quarterback because you don't want to take hits. You don't want to turn the ball over. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, they check down to their backs a ton too. Fournette and White catch a lot of passes.
Dre Greenlaw, baby.
Yep.
Greenlaw and Fournette hitting each other in the flats, running full speed at each other. I'm just saying
that's gonna be fun.
That's gonna be enjoyable.
Real quick, another stat, you guys. So we asked people, like, people may be wondering, where can you attack the 49ers defense? Where's the weak link, right? And a lot of people will say, like, all right, who's across from Mooney in Lenore? And right now, here's a stat for you about Diamador Lenore from Coach Yak on Twitter. So since he took over the cornerback starting spot in week 6, 28 yards allowed per game, no touchdowns allowed, 63 passer rating allowed, which is ranked ahead of Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey, and Xavier Howard and others.
They targeted Tyreek Hill whenever he was manned up with him 4 times. Tyreek got 1 catch, and guess what? So did Demo.
That's
freaking awesome, man.
It's crazy. They just keep plugging guys in. It's on the defense. It's insane. You get to the point
that guy couldn't see the field last year.
No.
They wouldn't let him on the field after he got burned in Philadelphia in week 2, right? They're like, all right, you're done. And they pulled him off. And we didn't see him again. Like, I put him on a milk carton. Where is Diamador Lenore? He was the Sam Womack of last offseason, right? Like, turning heads in camp. You're like, this guy's going to be a dude. And then started the season just like Womack, and then got burned in Philly. Never saw him again. Now, Womack has had a better season this year, but Demo's been playing so well that I think we forget that Ambry Thomas is still on this team. And Ambry Thomas played a huge role for the defense down the stretch. He doesn't see the field anymore.
Yeah.
They're just
Womack's ahead of him in almost every single every time somebody's come out, it's been Womack at the slot or Womack outside, not Ambry Thomas.
Yeah. And so I don't think we give enough credit to this front office and this scouting and scouting staff. There's been some misses in the first round, but outside of those, they hit home runs all the damn time. And it is really impressive.
They hit him late in the draft. They hit him in undrafted free agency. They hit him with guys like Menahue, who they see value in. And they bring in and they do well. Jordan Willis do well in their system. Yeah. So I said it a few shows ago. I'm done bashing their personnel. I'm done. Because look at this roster. Look at this defense. Look at the people they just plug in. Even the offensive line, like there's frustrations with that. And the line can be an easy place to blame. But how many times have we seen 2019? Both their starting tackles were hurt for a long stretch, and they went 8-0. They just kind of plug guys in and make things work. So the QB situation has gotten a lot because it's been a little crazy, a little dysfunctional. But you really can't argue with personnel of this team, man. You can't. So
let's not forget this front office drafted
Brock Purdy.
We need John the guy Paul Heyman to come in.
Oh yes,
and say Brock Purdy's voice. You see the tweet that he put up?
Purdy. Dude, I'll tell you what. If they get a home playoff game, I can almost guarantee that they'll get somebody out there for that. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I would love that. I would love to see Paul Heyman call Brock Purdy's name. That'd be hilarious.
Incredible.
What a time to be alive, guys.
Right?
Brian, we got to get a soundbite of Heyman doing that and use it in the show.
That's a good. I will look. I will try and find that.
Or just the Brock
cut it off
part
before he says before he says Lesnar.
Yeah, and then just like put your name, put like your voice in there, like. All right, before we get out of here, guys, we got predictions. We got to get predictions. So
yes, we do.
John, you are the guest of the hour, so please, what do you think this weekend?
I'm seeing a straight up field goal fest. I'm going 19-13, 49ers win and cover against the great Tom Brady. Field goals galore, baby.
All right.
Starting Robbie Gould on my fantasy team.
There you go.
Brian, what do you got?
So I know I said it in our last show. In week 2, Trey Lance went down with an injury. Jimmy Garoppolo came in, absolutely blew the doors off the Seattle Seahawks. And then the next week faced one of the better defenses in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. And we all remember how that game went. and we would probably like to forget it. And then last week, Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. Brock Purdy comes in, blows the doors off the Miami Dolphins, comes in, has to face a very difficult defense in Tampa Bay and a defensive coordinator who is really good at disguising coverage and things like that. So this game does worry me, even though I am the captain of the Brock Purdy hype train. And I don't think the situation is going to be too big for him, but I do think it's going to be a difficult game. John, I agree with you. I think it's going to be low scoring. And so I feel like I have to keep my trend, right? My trend has been, I've picked the 49ers in every game so far this season. So I've been wrong 4 times, but I've been right 8 times. It's pretty good. Pretty good record there. So I'm going to say the 49ers are going to win, but I'm going to say 16-13.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you guys. I think I'm going to say 20-12. They're going to win. And I think Tampa's going to kick 4 field goals and the Niners will kick a couple, but the Niners will find the end zone a couple times. I think it'll be a bit of a stressful game just because that's kind of how they roll, right? But I think they're going to pull it out, and I think they're going to be 9-4 going into Seattle, who I think will be 8-5, and I think the game's going to be gigantic. So that's where I am with that. All right, guys.
Well, I am.
Okay, you didn't give it yet. Go, buddy. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't matter. That's fine. I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna go again with John. Field goal fest. It's gonna go 16-3. The 49ers defense will turn in a signature performance against the GOAT. And this will be what I will do the open of the next show. I plan on doing the open of the next show, guys. Because that's what happens, John, is when they win, I do the open of the next show, right? So I've done it 8 times this year. We will continue that tradition as well. The Niners will win their 6th straight game, and they're going to go into Seattle, and we're going to see about that. So, yeah, Niners win 16-3.
All right, before we get out of here, John, tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, your website for the road trip.
Yeah, road trips, if you want to come party with us, 49ers Rush roadtrip.com, 49ers Rush roadtrip.com. Follow me on Twitter at JL_Chapman. My middle name's Lamar. Somebody took John Chapman. It's what we roll with. And yeah, 49ers Rush, wherever you listen, watch, download, subscribe, come join us along with these handsome devils. Thank you, gentlemen. This is an absolute pleasure. Big fans of all of you. And when we finally get to meet up in person, first round of drinks always on me, my friends.
Beautiful.
John,
thanks so much, John. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, John.
All right, for Brian and Zane, I'm Al.
Peace.
Later.